biggest event of Paradox 2023? Yes, it's none other than our entrepreneurship event, eConclave. They say that everyone can tell you about the risk, but an entrepreneur can see the reward. And with this quote, I, Prapti Pradhan, with co-host Kartike Bhandari, would like to proceed with the event. So before proceeding and calling out our guest on stage, let's first dive into the event flow. The session is divided into two parts. First will be a keynote speech by our professor, and second is a panel discussion. And we would also be having a Q&A session after the keynote speech. So without wasting a single more minute, let's start with eConclave in Paradox 2023. So by now, you all must be familiar with our keynote speaker. The one who hails from IIT Madras, he made significant strides in academia and research, completed his MS and PhD from University of Maine, USA, and has been a faculty member in IIT Madras since 1981. We have with us today a guest whose wealth of knowledge and expertise has not only enriched the minds of countless students, but has also shaped the future of technology and engineering in profound ways. He is none other than our president of IIT Madras Research Park and Incubation Cell, Professor Ashok Jhunjunwala. Thank you so much, sir. It's great to have you here. Now I would like hospitality team to present the token of appreciation.
Yeah, now you can hear me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Before we move to the event, let me first introduce to the topic. So the topic for this round is entrepreneurship, a career option for young graduates. And with this, I would like to hand over the stage to sir.
Thank you very much. I walked in about 20 minutes back, happened to meet a few youngsters in that corner, just started chatting with them, and very glad to see people from all over. Most of those people happened to be from Bihar, Bengal, UP. But I presume that you are from all over. They came from very diverse background. All of you come from very diverse background. Different, I was trying to figure out what did you do earlier? Who are your parents? And very, very interesting. I think this whole BSc Data Sciences program is one of the biggest programs that India has put together in education over last 75 years. This is going to open up new talent and allow large-scale talents to really first educate themselves, become excellent, and then serve the country. I think this is the biggest program, and I do recognize here the founders of the program here, all of them. I think you have met all of them. I don't need to tell you about them. But I think there is a major, major breakthrough. I have been associated with IIT for 53 years now. 1970, I went to IIT Kanpur. And fairly soon I saw this whole JEE being more of a, it was a part of us. JEE remained a part of us, but it was more a way to eliminate, more a mechanism to deny large number of youngsters who have been trying to get to become very best. It was a method of denying. It took me some time to really figure this out, but from around 84, 85 onwards, here at IIT Madras, I've been talking about that this way of filtering out JEE and getting a small number of students and training them, this is not what IIT should be. IIT should enable very large number of youngsters to do it. there was a fairly stiff opposition because most did not agree with us. And then we really did not even know how to go about doing it. How do you bring it? And then whole things happened. But I think the most important thing is that what happened was that Andrew happened. And without Andrew, he is my student, so I can use a little bit of liberty. So Andrew happened, and I think he kind of started this. And then, of course, I heard about this another person, Bharti, who joined him, and from NP. And in the meantime, a very important technology had come in, that one could do remote teaching, remote live teaching. I remember trying to do in programs like QEEE and all that, remote live teaching. But we were early. The technology was not fully ready. But then this happened. I think this is one of the biggest entrepreneurship success of India. I don't know whether you realize it was an entrepreneurship, it was a startup that was created. This program of data sciences, the way it was done, it is a startup. And it had already the biggest impact, and in the coming years is going to have even more bigger impact. Just a little bit of interaction, 10 minutes, 7, 8 minutes interaction, and I knew that this is going to change the future of India. One thing that I liked about it, most of the people are trying to get another degree or are working somewhere and simultaneously pursuing the this BTech program, data sciences program. I think that's probably the best thing. Because this data sciences program should not be done as a full-time. It is a program, you can do it at your own pace. It is a capability that you will somehow get. And this capability in the next 10, 20 years is going to be the most important capability, because what is happening with the data sciences is really going to transform the society, transform the country. And if thousands of people graduating from here are armed with it, I will say with no different from our best undergraduate, full-time undergraduate students in IIT, this is what is going to transform the country. So, let us briefly look at what Andrew did. Now, of course, and I'm going to talk about entrepreneurship in context of that. I'm going to talk about startup. So Andrew decided to do this at some point, and I figured it out that you need to do this. And as if, fortunately, he was a professor. He could continue to be a professor and pursue this. So in some sense, one of the most important things is that he didn't have to worry what is going to happen to him, his family, while he takes a break from his research in communication. And he was one of the top person pursuing communication research. And he would take a break from this and take a totally different career and try this totally unknown thing. He was kind of taken care of. And I think this is the first important lesson. In fact, when I was talking to a few people in that on that side, I was asking about their parents. I was asking about your brothers and sisters. You know what I was doing? I was trying to figure out what kind of obligations do you have? If you have obligations, like family depends on your earning. If family depends on your earning, then startup is a bad option. I think this is something that is, if you need money immediately, then startup is a bad option. Now you remember that Andrew, fortunately, was in a position that yes, as a professor, he will continue to be a professor, get his salary, his family will be taken care of. He didn't have any strong obligations, and he could jump into a totally unknown territory. So jumping into unknown territory is a risk. And no entrepreneurship and no startup ever succeeds without taking a risk. It is always a risk. What does it really mean? Risk basically means you can fail. And the most important thing about a startup and entrepreneurship, that you are more likely to fail than succeed. The most important characteristic is, what do you do on failure? On failure, do you have courage to get up and start again, try again? Little failures or large failures? Do you have courage to get up and try again? If you don't have the courage and you don't have the ability to stand up and try again, and probably again fail, and again get up and start again. So the two most important characteristics, if somebody wants to become an entrepreneur, is first, make sure that for the next several years, there are no obligations. Your financial situation is such that you can live with zero income from this new venture. Second, you figure out whether you have the ability to stand to failure. Fail, get up again. So the first question very often when people come to me and say they want to become an entrepreneur, they want to do a startup, I ask you, how many times in the life have you failed? I try to dig what happens on failure. Do you demolish? Do you take a long time to recover? Or are you able to quickly recover and restart again? You learn from every failure, but you need to fail. In fact, what we often don't teach our youngsters today is to fail. To get up after failure. Not be afraid of failure. Not be scared of failure. Because entrepreneurship is about taking risk. You will also be shouted at. So I often ask questions. Who shouts at you? How often have you been shouted at? What is your reaction to the shouting? Because market will always shout at you. Do not think that what you imagine will work. Things will fail. Things will also shout at you. If you have these two abilities, you have taken care of obligations, you know how to get up after failure, you are not afraid of being shouted at, and if you can work 36 hours a day. Now remember, I'm saying 36 hours a day. Because no enterprise ever succeeds without hard work. I don't know how many countless hours of work Andrew and Bharti would have put into making this success. It would be uncountable. And I deliberately said 36 hours a day. It is really you have to put in, day in, day out, hard work. With for a long time, no return. I think if you have these characteristics, you can get up after failure. You don't have immediate obligations for next few years. If you do not get any salary, you can manage. Next, if you can take shouting, and if you are ready to take hard work, that is the starting point. The next most important thing will be that pretty much no startup ever succeeds without a team, without bonding, without a group. So I don't think that Andrew himself would have been successful but for Bharti, but for GV, but for few other people who he was able to form a team and quickly allow of them and say, we'll make this happen. No individual effort. I have not seen individual effort ever reaching the heights that's required. You require a team. And the whole team has to have, to some extent, that characteristics that I talked about. Get up after failure, work very hard. Without that, doesn't work. If you have that, you can do impossibles. And the important thing is that entrepreneurship is about doing it impossible. So I'm told that about 3,000 of you are here. I don't see 3,000. I only see about 1,000 of them. Others are enjoying. Good. I don't know in this heat what enjoyment do you do, but this is Agni Nakshatram, in last part of Agni Nakshatram in Chennai. I wish you come some other time, which is a better climate. Not too much better, but better than this. But anyway, there are about 1,000, 1,200 of you. I don't know whether you have gone to the IIT Madras Research Park. You've seen the IIT Madras campus. But do try to walk. It's about 7 minutes walk from here. I know the security people will try to stop you there. Figure out a way. I'm not sure you know how to handle a security person. Talk some way out. Say, oh, Professor Jhunjunwala has called me, and go there. Because that is another thing that we did as a startup. You won't believe that. That's a 1.2 million square feet. And without seeing it, you won't understand what I'm talking about. And yet I'm saying that with the hope that you will walk in and see the place before you leave. You can do it today, tomorrow also. Places will be closed, but doesn't matter. The research park is open. You can walk in. If you really wanted to see it, you needed a weekday, but doesn't really matter. We built the whole thing with only seed money. Some seed money was there. Rest we borrowed from the bank. We borrowed 400 crore rupees from the bank to build that whole place. It took 12 years and we have paid back the loan with the interest. And we now make a lot of money. We make almost 60, 70 crore rupees a year. And we get industry and academia to work together. In India, one of the first things that I noticed after coming to IIT Madras, here that academia does not work with the industry. Industry says, well, academics are only interested in publishing paper and doing a research which will never result into commercialization. Academic people say, oh, the industry people are only importing technology, they want ready-made technology, they don't want to take risk, and there is no point in working with them. This was the problem that I noticed even in 82, 83. And from there onwards, one of my endeavor was somehow to bridge the gap. I started working, a large number of youngsters working with me. Even when Andrew was a student out here, you saw a large number of youngsters working with me, had started working with industry. And some amount of industry-academia relationship had started happening. But it was not at the scale that we would have liked to. Our group was doing it, but it was not at the scale. And the research park was built with the idea that we will scale this industry academia. We have some of the finest professors in IIT Madras. We have 600, 650 faculty, and about 200 of them are absolutely outstanding. You won't find such faculty anywhere else. If we can bring the industry close, industrial R&D close to them, and somehow have the interaction going on, I think impossible can happen. And that was the objective that we built this research park. The important thing is the research park was built without taking any funds without taking more than the seed funds from anyone. And therefore it's independent of IIT to some extent. It was of course started by IIT, but independent of IIT, independent of government, because we didn't take money from the government, we don't take money from the government. And it was an independent entity, non-profit, and we built this. You go and see it, you will really understand that. So one is that we started this industry-academia interface. And a very rough number, and I don't have the exact number, there are about 2007, 6, 7 when we started, about 5 to 10% of our faculty used to work with industry. Today, almost 50% faculty work with industry. And this transformation has happened. And I also sort of say, some extent, what Andrew was trying to do, the courage partly came from something like this happened. And you should therefore see this. The second thing that we did was set up our incubation cell out here. And this is about incubation. We set up our incubation and we realize the incubation is a very hard task. I just told you, we start looking at whether a person who comes in has obligation. Before that, a very important thing, IIT, what started in IIT called CFI. So this CFI, what is a CFI? And how do I refer to CFI? No, most of you, when you were kids, many of you would have come across Lego or a Meccano or a jigsaw puzzle. And when you got hold of it, you will play with it. You will play for long hours. You didn't have to be told by parents that you must go and play. And you will play with several kids together. So that, if you saw, but while you are playing, you are enjoying, of course. You are not supervised by your parents. You are not told by your parents, teacher, to do that. You are doing that. You are enjoying, you are playing, you are also learning. This Lego is a learning tool. Jigsaw puzzle is a learning tool. You don't realize that it is learning. In fact, it's best to learn that when you do not realize that it is learning. Then you learn. Just like when you stand up and start walking, you are learning immensely. But nobody is telling you, no, you must learn, you must learn. You do that. In the same manner, when Lego is given to you, Meccano is given to you, a jigsaw puzzle is given to you, you start doing this. This was an important component missing in IIT education and all education, that we did not teach you how to build something. And we realized sometime around 1998, 99, that we need to open up the students to do some kind of build. We called it Center for Innovation. At other places, we called it Build Club. And that is not supervised by faculty. Faculty is there to ensure that those safety or security issues there. Beyond that, they don't tell. They don't make rules. It's a club that students run. And there they build. And you work in groups. You never work alone. 4, 5, 6 people learn from each other, build something, fail, again try, and build and learn, and countless hours. In fact, nights are spent trying to build things. That was an important component that had already started in IIT. We started then incubation. And we put it in research park. Some work was going on out here before that, but we put it in research park. We started incubating companies. Again, when people will come to us for incubations, the process will be same. They will come to, after they have learned to build, they get excited, they feel that they can start up. And I'll ask them, who are your parents? What do they do? What does your brother and sister do? Is there an obligation? Do you have financial obligation? Will they be able to support you for 2 to 3 years? And if the answers are yes, then I start asking about failures in your life. I start asking about the shouting that you have received. And once you go past that and show that you are willing to really, really work hard. Yes, we tell you, taking up a job is much easy. You work for 7, 8, 9 hours, 10 hours, happy. Here you have to work countless hours. And you know, one of the things that we don't give money when we start, because easy money hurts. This is what we have learned by actually giving easy money, and we are seeing the things fail. So what we do is make it very tight for them. They have to figure out how to run the place for several months before even they will get us some seed money. We basically are getting them to learn to stand up. And then we start after that we start helping them more and more and more. That's what we do. And we are very lucky by doing this filtering process, getting this. We got a whole lot of people, not just from IIT. In fact, 60% of our youngsters come from outside IIT. Nothing to do with IIT, from other engineering colleges, or from all over India. And they come and incubate with us. There are, of course, some alumni comes. Fortunately, we have very good faculty who come for incubation. So once we have all these people participating in incubation, we started building companies. Over the last 12, 13, 14 years, we have built 320 companies. The value of this company is 40,000 crore rupees. It's actually, I couldn't even have imagined this number, frankly speaking. When we reached 1,000 crore valuation of all of the company, I said, wow, one of the biggest achievements we have done. And it is just going up. Let me assure you, in 2 to 3 years' time, we'll touch 100,000 crore rupees. That, and the kind of companies that are coming, these are deep tech companies. Some of them are several of them are data sciences. They really, really are making a difference. And that's the reason I wish there was more time to just take you and go through everything. But even without it, you come, if any other time you come to Chennai, write to us and we will arrange a tour for you. You really feel. So now come back to you. What do you have to do with entrepreneurship? Now, first of all, the important thing is this data sciences course. Even a certificate course is valuable. Diploma is even more valuable. The BSc is very valuable. You can go up to whatever level you wish to. It doesn't really matter. I think even if you stop at a certificate level and get into the world, you will make a mark. That's one important point. Don't make it easy make it possible for you. Try doing more and more. Go all the way. And then you have to use it. You have to use it for getting into quality work. You have to strive to find quality work. And some of you may want to do a startup. Remember, all of you will be our alumni. If you want to do a startup, please connect with me. Yes. Find out my email ID. Unfortunately, I am not projecting anything. Otherwise, you can just write Ashok at iitm.ac.in. Somehow it will reach me. And if any one of you write that, you would get a response from me. And if you don't get a response, means somewhere the mail has got lost in junk folder or something, rewrite to me. And you will get, within maximum of 2 days, you will get a response. Probably the same day. Do write to me because you are already a student of IITM and you are going to be alumni of IITM. If any of you want to do a startup, we'll help you. We'll of course grill you like the others. We'll not make it easy for you. Number 2, if you want to work with one of the companies, we'll help you approach them. Startup as well as regular companies. If you are interested in R&D, this has a large number. We have about 220 companies working in Research Park. Once you go past, let's say, a diploma, you are ready. Even while you are pursuing also, you can possibly work. So all these possibilities is open. So I'll say, once again, I will try to say that you are getting ready to make a huge impact on India. You are getting ready, and this program is getting you ready. Now, figure out how you will do it as an employee, as a startup, as doing more, getting into academia. All those avenues are open. But if you want to do a startup, connect with us. Thank you. Thank you. I think I'll stop here with questions. We don't want people to ask the questions. Go ahead, ask the questions. And the person who asks the question, will ask them to also stand up. First, 0 income for the next 2 to 3 years. Number 2, that means you shouldn't have obligations. If you have obligations, go fulfill and come back. When you have that little bit of surplus, you or your parents or your friends, so that for 2 to 3 years you can survive without income. Because you are more likely to fail in the first effort, second effort. The ability to get up after failure. Ability to take shouting. An ability to work very hard. An ability to put together a team and do the teamwork. I think these are the traits. not others. In fact, what ideas you have makes minor difference. You can reinvent new things.
So everyone talks about success. Can you please share some of your failure stories and what have you learned from them and how did you bounce back?
My own failure story, there are more failures, so many failures in my life that I can't even start counting. But just to give you a idea, I did my BTech from IIT Kanpur, 70 to 75, went abroad. That time there was emergency. I won't tell you exactly why, but I went abroad. Did my master's, PhD, came back in 1981. Not many people used to come at that time. Very clear idea that I would like to transform India. So actually I wanted to get into politics. This was a place I got a job, IIT Madras, and it's a good place to stay for a year to figure out how to make a difference to India and how to get into politics, and I will do that. Very soon when I started going around, I realized politics is not my cup of tea. I really can't drive that. But my desire to change India was very strong. That's what I had come for. So if politics is not the thing, what else can be? And it is here that a few incidents happened, and I'll talk about them just. First thing that I learned, this is learning about India. 83, we suddenly started hearing in our radios, that time there was no television, and various other places, about some Nirma soap powder. Nirma soap powder. A new company has come up. It is making Nirma soap powder, and they had these nice jingles that was going around. And this, from nowhere, this powder had come. We all knew about surf. We are using surf. Except surf was very expensive. So for example, I used to buy a small box of surf and see that it will last for 2 years. So only used in my woolen clothes or some of the very fine clothes. For the rest, we used to use a bar. I personally, even as a professor of IIT, used to bar and wash the clothes. It used to take time and effort. And here this Nirma is 1/4 the cost of the surf. And say, oh, you can make, and immediately wash the clothes and it will work very well. You know, we heard in the newspaper that surf was, and those who were supporters of surf, the Hindustan Lever, all the management graduates from the country, we're all running down Nirma. They were saying a useless, it hurts on your hand, it is a lot of bleaching, it's a bad powder, you should avoid that. But we also saw Nirma graph going up, and gradually we saw catching up with surf, and within a year it had touched the amount of Nirma soap sold is equal to the surf powder. And second year, it was 3 times the surf in terms of total sale. I also started using it. It was true that it used to hurt a hand. It was true that it would bleach the clothes. But it saved a lot of effort. 15, 20, 30 minutes of work. One did not mind clothes being, but clothes were very white. That part was not there. It did mind, okay, anyway my clothes, I don't know how long will it last, so we'll use that. It was inexpensive, so that I didn't have to do any bar soap. I suddenly started using surf. It's not just me, the country started doing it. And suddenly 80%, 90% of the market share was that of Nirma. It is only then Surf realized what a mistake it was making. Surf came with another powder, very similar to Nirma powder. They forgot about their talking and they brought it at the same cost or similar cost so that they can win. I suddenly realized that India is a very large market at the right price point. And the rise of Nirma also showed me that if we can work with the technology and have technology available to the masses, affordable to the masses, a lot of enterprise can take place, development can take place. And suddenly in my mind, this and there were 2-3 such similar incidents started, I was thinking that entrepreneurship may be the best way to develop India. My objective was to try to develop India. And I suddenly started realizing that entrepreneurship was the best way to develop India. So for example, when I came to Chennai and came to IIT Madras, I wanted to get a telephone at my house, home. Telephone so that my parents were in Calcutta, I can be in regular touch with them. It took me 8 years to get a telephone. In Madras, in IIT, it took me 8 years to get a telephone. And suddenly, the whole thing was, why can't telephone be available to everyone just like it was available in US? And that got me started thinking, what is the key reason? And soon found out that it was basically not affordable. It was costing 40,000 rupees to install a telephone. And unless a telephone bill per month was 1,200 rupees per month, it made no business sense. So understanding the business sense. And then from there on, my key focus was, how do you make a telephone available at 10,000 rupees per line? It took me 7-8 years to figure out that the only way we can make telephone use the cost is not through wired line but through wireless line. And that time, wireless telephony was not available and very, very expensive. And we just decided, and that was one of the early company that we created. We said we will make telephones at 10,000 rupees per line. We'll make every aspect of the telephone and we will do this. And it took us a long time. 96 in Chennai, in Besant Nagar area, Adyar area, we actually installed our wireless telephone. The total cost of installing the telephone was 10,000 rupees per line as opposed to 40,000 rupees. That, in one way, was the biggest success. But very soon, for the next 2-3 years, was the most horrible time that I had in my life. All kinds of things were done to finish us up. All kinds of things, including threats to our lives. It's an unbelievable kind of story. A whole lot of bricks fell on us to try to finish us up. 2 years of struggle, getting up every morning and trying to do things after all the wrong lessons. 3 years almost, before it was realized that somebody was trying to finish us in a bad manner and this has to be stopped. It was the biggest failure. But getting up after the failure was the most important thing. And we continued. We saw that in India gets wireless telephone. We saw that India, the telephone becomes affordable. Our dream was 100 million. Soon we reached billion. But we continue to work on technology. And if you do come to Research Park, let's say on Monday, you can see the 5G technology we have developed and is ready there and is actually being installed today in India. And it is a firm that started in 1990 and it has taken us almost 32 years and large number of failures. Failures are therefore very, very important. There have been small failures, a lot of failures. One can go on talking about it. So that's my answer.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Last question and then we can move on to the audience. Imagine yourself to be in 20s again with all the knowledge you have right now. So how would that shape your journey in your life?
At 20s, you don't have all the knowledge. I think that's basically a fallacy because it has to be lifelong learning. So what one would do at 20s? What if I was at 20 with whatever knowledge I have? I will try to take up big problems of India. For example, one of the big problems is the whole climate change. I don't know how much you have kept track about what is happening with climate change. But a decent understanding is the earth has only about 100 years to live. We'll destroy ourselves. We're destroying every day. A little bit of digging, 100 years is, we'll finish ourselves. Of course, what is the solution? The solutions are twofold. Number one, to come up with green technology so that we don't continue to use fossil fuel and hurt the world. Number two, to live a simpler life and consume less. Something that is very much part of Indian culture, and that something that Gandhiji realized even 100 years back when he told us that enough for everyone to live, but not for everyone's greed. And I think two things has destroying the world. One, consuming more and more and more, and then consuming more and more fossil fuels because they were available and inexpensive, whether it's a coal or oil or any kind of thing. I think there are two big things that youth can take up. One is to move away completely from fossil fuel and come up with green technology. And hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of ventures are required. And number two, figure out how one can live have a simpler life and yet be very happy. Objective should be to become happy and creative rather than consume more and more. So this is one. There are many other areas. India is still a country, I don't know how many of you know, that 75% of population still have in India income of less than 20,000 rupees per month, household income.
Very good.
How do you change that? Having a few very rich people is not going to transform India. And one can start with India. The world has similar problems. So there are all kinds of these challenges. The kind of education that you are getting, the kind of energy that I saw in a bunch of people out there, I think, and a large number of youngsters that India has, if we can start training 500,000, 1 million youngsters, maybe 2 million youngsters, educate them well, I think India will become the leader in solving the world's problem. And that's what I will say that 20-year-old should. Thank you very much.
We wanted to take a moment and say a big thank you to you, sir. We appreciate your time, presence, and your thought of word.